By the end of this video, you'll be able to turn a rough idea into a working spec and code using ClaudeCode. This is a game changer because it lets you go from a vague concept to actual running code quickly. You'll be able to validate your ideas, test them, and iterate faster than ever before. To show you how this works, let's start with a simple example. Suppose you want to build a tool that generates a daily to-do list based on your tasks and deadlines. You have a rough idea of what you want, but you're not sure where to start. That's where ClaudeCode comes in. ClaudeCode is a powerful tool that lets you write code in a collaborative way, using natural language prompts to generate, test, and refine your code. By the end of this video, you'll know how to use ClaudeCode to take your rough idea and turn it into a working spec and code. We'll break this down into smaller steps, starting with defining your idea, then creating a spec using Claude.md, and finally writing the code with ClaudeCode. It's a straightforward process that will save you time and help you build better software. So, let's get started with our example. We'll take this rough idea of a daily to-do list generator and turn it into a working spec and code using ClaudeCode. Your first step is to open ClaudeCode and start defining your idea. What problem do you want to solve, and how do you want to solve it? By the end of this, you'll be able to set up your ClaudeCode environment and create a new project. First, you need to install ClaudeCode. You can do this by visiting the Anthropic website and following the installation instructions for your operating system. Once installed, open ClaudeCode and you'll see a clean interface with a few key sections. On the left, you have your project navigator, where you can manage all your projects and files. In the middle, you have the editor, where you'll spend most of your time writing code. And on the right, you have the output panel, where you can see the results of your code execution. To create a new project, click on File, and then New Project. Choose a project name, and select the project type as Claude.md. This will allow you to work with Claude's Markdown-based syntax. Now, you'll see your new project in the Project Navigator. You can expand it to see the default files and folders. The most important file is the main.claude file, which is where you'll start writing your spec. Take a moment to familiarize yourself with the interface and navigation. You'll be using these features extensively as you turn your idea into a spec and then code with Claude. Next, try creating a new project in ClaudeCode and explore the interface to get a feel for how it works. Vocabulary, interface, navigator, editor, execution. By the end of this, you'll be able to take a rough idea and turn it into a clear specification using Claude.md. You've got your development environment set up. Now it's time to define what you're actually building. Claude.md is a powerful tool for creating specifications, and it's where you'll spend most of your time when working with Claude. First, open a new file in your editor and name it spec.md. This is where you'll write your specification using Claude.md syntax. Start by defining the inputs to your project. What data will Claude be working with? For example, if you're building a chatbot, your inputs might be user messages. Next, define the outputs. What do you want Claude to produce? Using the chatbot example again, your outputs might be responses to user messages. Now, define the logic that connects your inputs to your outputs. This is where you specify how Claude should process the inputs to produce the desired outputs. You'll use Claude.md syntax to write this logic, which is designed to be easy to read and write. For instance, you might write input, user message and output, response, and then define the rules that govern how Claude turns the input into the output. By breaking down your idea into inputs, outputs, and logic, you'll create a clear specification that Claude can understand. This specification will serve as the foundation for your project, and it's what you'll use to generate code with ClaudeCode later on. Now, go ahead and open spec.md in your editor and start defining your idea using Claude.md. What are the inputs, outputs, and logic for your project? Vocabulary, specification, inputs, outputs, syntax. All right, now that we have our spec locked down with Claude.md, let's turn those ideas into actual code with Claude. By the end of this step, you'll be able to leverage Claude's capabilities to write and test your application's core logic. First things first, open up your project directory where you've stored your Claude.md file. Make sure you're in the right folder. Bash cd path / to / your / project. Now, Let's create a new file for our Claude code. Name it something descriptive like main.ClaudeCode. You can do this with the following command. Bash. Touch main.ClaudeCode. Next, open your text editor or IDE of choice and start adding your Claude code. We'll use an example from your spec to make things clear. Let's say you want a simple chatbot that responds to greetings. Here's how we can set up the core logic in main.ClaudeCode. ClaudeCode. Import CladeBug. / define our greeting function. Function greet user. If user equals hello, user equals hi. Return hello there. Else, return, I didn't understand that. Can you say hello or hi? / set up the main loop for our chatbot. While true, var message equals get_input. Print greet message. Let's break this down. Import CladeBug. This line imports the debugging utility, which helps us see what Claude is doing under the hood. It's useful during development. Function greet user defines a function that checks if the input matches hello or hi. If it does, it returns a friendly greeting. Otherwise, it asks for clarification. The while true loop keeps our chatbot running indefinitely by continuously getting user input and printing out the greeting response. Now, save your file. To run this code with Claude, you'll need to use the Claude command. Bash. Claude run main.ClaudeCode. This will start your chatbot, and you should see it respond when you type hello or hi. By the end of this, you'll be able to run your application, identify areas for improvement, and refine it to better match your initial spec. Now that you've converted your spec into Claude code, it's time to see it in action. You'll run your application using the MCP server, which allows you to test and interact with your code in a real-world environment. First, make sure you have the MCP server installed and configured on your machine. Then, navigate to the directory containing your Claude code file and run the command mcp start. This will launch the server and make your application available for testing. As you interact with your application, observe its behavior and take note of any discrepancies between what you expected and what actually happens. This is a crucial step, as it allows you to identify areas where your code may not be aligning with your spec. You can then use this information to refine your application, making adjustments to the code as needed to ensure it meets your requirements. To refine your application, you'll work directly with the Claude code, using the Claude.md documentation as a reference to understand the available functions and parameters. By iterating on your code and testing it repeatedly, you'll be able to hone in on the desired behavior and create an application that accurately reflects your initial idea and spec. Now, go ahead and run your application using the MCP server, and let's see how it behaves. Take note of what works as expected and what doesn't, and get ready to refine your code to create an even better application. By the end of this, you'll be able to take your new Claude-powered application to the next level by integrating it with an MCP server. You've made it through the process of turning a rough idea into a spec and then coding it with Claude. That's something to be proud of. Now, let's talk about what's next. You can find a workflow we've covered so far, including the code and spec examples, on our Claude Lab GitHub page. Take a look at the README for links to all the resources we've used. To explore more advanced use cases and capabilities, consider integrating your application with an MCP server. This will allow you to tap into the full potential of Claude and discover new ways to apply its power. You can start by checking out the Anthropic documentation on MCP servers and subagents, which provides a comprehensive guide to getting started. Then, try modifying your existing code to work with the MCP server. You might be surprised at how easily it integrates. If you want to see more examples like this, or dive deeper into specific topics like Claude.md or hooks and skills, be sure to subscribe to our channel for regular updates and tutorials. Now, go ahead and take the next step. Try integrating your application with an MCP server and see what new possibilities open up.